Welcome to Adult Education and Family Literacy Week and the Command Center, hosted by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. I'm super excited about our next guest because our next guest is somebody that I met when I first came on to COABE and the COABE board several years ago. And there's people in every industry that are like the person that just are in the know, and they're the kind of person are the mover and shaker of your industry, and they're the ones with the expertise and the experience. And I can think of very few people that have the knowledge and experience when it comes to adult education than Pat Tyler. Pat, how are you?
Thank you, Jeff. I'm fine. How are you doing? It's been a while.
It's so good to see you.
Good
It's so
to see you.
Wow. So I had some memories yesterday because I was in the command center, which happened to be in the Hall of States. And that's actually where very first time I met you, when you had your offices there. So why don't you introduce yourself and the work you do to our audience?
Well, yeah, thank you for that glowing introduction, Jeff. I mean, I really am thank you. So I have been the executive director of the National Association of State Directors of Adult Education for the past 5.5 years. And before that, I was the state director in Maryland. But I started this career as an adult ed instructor and worked in many local program initiatives before going into administration.
Wow. So I have so much to talk to you about because I've been wanting for like the longest time. So it's not often that that you get to like really dig in when you interview someone. I have so many questions. So first, you've been doing this work for so long, and you started as an instructor, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So must have some observation on like how things have changed in adult education over the years since you first gotten involved.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I think accountability is the first thing that pops into my mind as you ask that question, because I think accountability is strengthened. There are more accountability needs and reporting requirements, which I don't think is a bad thing. We do have some concerns about the performance measures, and do they really align with what we're trying to do with our students? But accountability has changed. I mean, certainly, it goes without saying, digital, how we connect with students, and especially highlighted during the pandemic. But those are a couple of things that pop into mind. With WIA first being pulled into workforce legislation back in, the very early 2000s. That was actually signed in 98. And then, WIOA in 2014. I think that has changed the way we do things. Integrated education and training, career pathways are much more in the focus now. So
That's a good thing. I mean, we're finally beginning to understand the relationship between getting people smarter and getting them into a career pathway to success, right?
yeah.
And it starts with education. That's the bottom. We're at the first rung. From the accountability end, I think it's so important, and I want to start there because in our discussion, met with a lot of senators and legislators over the past week, and really having a discussion about the impact of adult education. And accountability is so important in this because in order for you to get funding, you need to be able to prove that you're doing some good work. And that's something that has changed over the years, and we are holding more and more people accountable. But what are some of the challenges you see with accountability?
So, first of all, I want to say I think accountability is a good thing, and just as a citizen, as a taxpayer, you want the public money spent in an accountable way. You want reporting. Reporting requirements are necessary. So, but some of the challenges with reporting now, as I said, I was an instructor, so and I was a coordinator of programs. So I did assessment, but it's been a while. So what I hear from instructors is that it's become a lot more complicated and time consuming. So I get that, but I think assessment is necessary. So I think there are a lot of conversations that have to be conducted in order for us to get at what is the ideal way to to do an assessment. And I think being in workforce legislation, I guess is point two of the accountability issues. I don't think that's a bad thing. Some people don't think adult ed students come to classes because they want to get a better job. But, having worked with thousands of students over my years in local program, I think, everybody comes because, they want to get their GED. They, want to help their kids with their homework. They want to be a role model for their kids. But if you dig a little bit deeper, like why would you want to get a GED? What about, as your kids get older? It does boil down to the quality of my life will be better if I further my education because I'll be qualified for more employment opportunities. So I think being in workforce legislation is, I think to align with that is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah. I wish there was a KPI or key performance indicator for generational change. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. Like we don't often see, we know how many of our students may get an academic gain or get their high school equivalency or may go on post-secondary. But education is that one thing that it's the children. I mean, this is Adult Education and Family Literacy Week because it is a family, and the impact that education has isn't just with the individual. It oftentimes is generational. It's those children that are seeing that and then say, I want to be like mom and dad. I want to go to school and I want to get my high school equivalency or get my high school degree, and then I want to move on and go to college and find that pathway. So I don't think we're far away from really coming up with that key performance indicator. I get it, but I do think that the accountability piece is important. I also I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something else you mentioned. I've been doing a lot of work with the Department of Education on IET, the integrated educational training, because it just makes sense to me. If you can put that math teacher teaching fractions with that carpentry teacher and give them some workforce preparedness pieces, it's like the whole puzzle is like right there for success. And IET is something that's it's been around a little bit, but it's only recently that I think Octane, and I give Octane credit here too, they've really been pushing out and supporting these projects across the country. But I wanted to get your feeling on the IET as a model and whether you think that's what the lane looks like going forward on that.
Well, I think the integrated education and training is fabulous. I mean, to put together in context the skills that someone needs to learn, and for them to understand why they need to learn, how it applies to a real life situation, I think is excellent. And I think IET is just a great way to accelerate the learning on both sides rather than doing something chronologically. Let's get your academics and then let's go into job training. And just a funny story, a number of years ago in Maryland, we were bringing IET into Maryland for the first time. And so we had set up some projects around, and just on another occasion, we were viewing a site from one of our providers for another reason. We were actually looking for space for GED testing. So we were touring the building, and the person giving us the tour didn't know we were connected with the IET program. But she came upon the space and she said, "Oh, we have this exciting new program that I want to tell you about. It's teaching, the adult ed academics along with the training. We've got this construction." And the students are learning so much faster. And it was just like, she had no idea that she was talking to the administrators of the program. So it was really, really exciting to hear that. And I think, we've heard some challenges in setting it up. So one of the things we're doing is trying to, help people with more models and, connect people who've got successful models with people who are just starting out and looking for, models.
Yeah, so a shameless plug. I do work. I'm a moderator for Links and the Links Network, and the toolkit for IET has come out, and it's a resource on the Links Network for the Department of Education, so you can check out the toolkit that's there. It's funny too, from an educator standpoint. I did some technical assistance this past 2 years for IET and corrections, and working with correctional facilities. And I was down in West Virginia and met with all the instructors that were in the IET programs, and they were a little hesitant event, and they were curious like what we were trying to do. We're launching IETs across the country inside of the walls, and they said, "Oh, but we do that already." And yeah, of course you do it already. And then we got into it, and they got really excited by the discussion of it. So there are some great toolkits out there. I'm curious a little bit about this. We're here at Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. There's a lot of advocacy work going on, and I don't want to get NASDA into the advocacy end of it, but if there was a message for the people of our country about adult education and why it's so important, what would that message be? What would you like to share with them?
So I think adult education is such a critical key to a strong nation, and with a more highly educated populace and a better informed populace, our problems of unemployment, poverty, hunger, crime can be solved. So
Yeah.
it's critical. And we have a colleague who said recently that there's no workforce development if you don't have literacy. So I mean, it's critical. It's the foundation to everything. It's it's the foundation to parenting. There's so many skills that are necessary. It's the foundation to work. It's
Pat, I'm curious now too. We haven't really talked about digital literacy, but we know the Digital Equity Act is in the planning phase now and has become law. We're going to be seeing enactment of programming and funding coming down over the next year. So it's been a while for us to chip away to really make it for this kind of law that could have such a great impact on our students in particular. And the lesson that came from me or to me was during COVID, when we got all these laptops to give out, and then we gave them out and realized that many of our participants didn't have broadband access, and that it wasn't doing them a whole world of good until we worked on the access piece. But I'm curious from your end, what would you hope to see come from the Digital Equity Act?
Well, I think, people have talked about a three-legged stool, which is, you've got to have the broadband, you've got to have the access to that, you've got to have the tools, you've got to have the computer, that's modern enough to run the programs, and then you've got to have the skills. So I am so happy to see that adult education is a required partner in the digital equity planning that's being done now, and I look forward to great things coming from that. So we've been talking with the state directors a lot about get involved with this, have a plan. So.
Well, I have to tell you that you'd be really proud to know that state directors from across the country have been on this broadcast and have been sharing out and doing just to say spectacular work is an understatement, because they've gotten word out at a level that I can never, and I haven't been doing it far nearly as long as you have, but in the years that I've been doing this work, I have never seen this kind of commitment down at the really frontline workforce, where they're going into mayors, they're going to mayors' offices, they're going to state legislators and city legislators and councilmen, and they're going all the way up and really following through. And what they're doing, even more remarkable, is they're bringing students with them to tell their stories. So you should be really proud of the messaging that's coming out from NASDA to all your state associations, and the state associations are doing an amazing job. So thank you for your leadership, for everything that you do, and for your friendship to COABE as well. We love having you on our team and working with you, and I know Sharon appreciates you from that end. So just wrap up. Is there anything else? If we wanted to get more information on NASDA and the great things that are happening, how will we go about doing that?
Well, we have a website. It's just www.nasda.org. But certainly feel free to contact me at any time. I love to hear from everyone out in the field. I do an open adult education policy and issues forum on Thursday afternoons. It's actually the third Thursday of the month at 3 p.m. usually. Occasionally we have to change the date, but that's a regular. If you're interested and not on my distribution list, just contact me, Tyler at nasday.org, and be glad to have more participation here from the field.
Well, we love the work that you're and the commitment that you're doing. It's just filled with passion, and your expertise and knowledge is so important to everyone in the field. And I know that in speaking on behalf of COEB and the people that are doing this work, thank you for everything that you do. And thanks for jumping on today. It's been great seeing you. Hopefully, I'll get to see you in person soon.
Yeah, good to see you too, Jeff.